Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Well, Mercury in retrograde is certainly kicking my butt. I apologize for being late. There's no video, but we're streaming live here on YouTube. And we'll be uploading on the other platforms within a 24-hour period. I hope, as long as we can get the electronics working properly, right? If you don't know who I am, I'm Marla Goldberrg. And I not only am your host today, but I am your guest. And we're going to have a show about taking your initial steps for your journey to self-love. So, I talk about this quite a bit. It's one of my huge talking points. And it's something that I've gone through. I've gone from what I consider the lowest level of lack of self-love, which is self-loathing or self-hate, to really accepting and loving myself, who I am, as I like to say, warts, wrinkles, and all. And I love to talk about this because I know that if I could do this from my journey on this planet, in this body, then you can too. And I want to bring out and highlight really important steps that are easy to incorporate into your life, whether it's in your day, your week, your month. But if you do anything consistently, things will start to change. You've heard the phrase a number of times that it takes 30 days to change a habit. So I'm going to invite you to take 30 days. Let's start October 1st and go to the 30th or even the 31st and try doing some of these practices. I am confident that your life will start shifting as mine did. So, when we talk about self-love, let me ask, what is self-love? Do you know what self-love is even? I know I didn't. I thought I had it. I thought I was living self-love. But if you looked at my decisions, and more importantly than my decisions, if you looked at the results of my choices, oh my God, there was not a lot of self-love in there. And you know that because when you keep falling flat on your face like I did, it shows you there's no self-love, because when you're walking your journey, when you're healing, when you're moving up the ladder of self-love. And so I made a scale. I'm going to put it up on the screen. And know that you can find this on my website at Marla Goldberrg, and Goldberg has 2Rs.com. And if you go to, you can do a / scales of self-love, no spaces. You can find this or go under my favorite things and you'll find the scale there. But this is my scale to self-love that I've created. And as you see, the lowest level is self-loathing or self-hate. The highest level, obviously, is self-love and everything in between. So let me read to you what the lower rungs of the self-love scale are. And this is if we were going to be 0, neutrality would be 0. We've got the lowest of low is self-loathing. Then there's shame, guilt, bitterness, anger, critical or being critical or criticisms, judgmental, self-punishment, limiting beliefs, and pride all sit under neutrality. And when you start healing those issues, those wounds, you will start going up to the next, to the next, to the next, and you'll finally get to neutrality, which is then a place you can go, whew, but don't sit on those laurels. You want to move up to develop courage, forgiveness, supportiveness, honesty, truth, compassion, gratitude, generosity, kindness, self-esteem, confidence, self-acceptance, which will then lead you to self-love. And I know it sounds redundant when you say truth and honesty. They can be similar or they can be a little bit different. And that's why I put that on the scale. And you also might be saying, well, I don't feel that those are in that order. Change the order. For me, my ego isn't so involved with this scale. where you can't do your own thing. My intention, the purpose for doing that is to give you a visual to see how to heal and how you can quantify your healing and move up the scale for yourself. Because when you start healing yourself and start moving more and more into the self-love process, things in your life are going to start changing, because they did for me. And it's just amazing how I kept adding above neutrality courage. I started stepping out of my comfort zone and making courageous steps to do things that weren't comfortable at the beginning. But it helped me to heal. It helped me to move up to forgiveness. And I had the courage to forgive, which we're going to talk a little bit later on in the show. And forgiveness, not just of others, but more importantly, forgiveness of myself. That's the hard one. Forgiving others can be a lot simpler. The forgiveness process, letting go, that's another conversation. But forgiving oneself, it's one of the hardest things that you're going to have to do. And yes, you are going to need courage for it. Supportiveness, or supportive, not just being supportive of others, allowing people to be supportive of you. Honesty. Well, being honest to others, being honest to yourself. Integrity might be another way of working with honesty. Being truthful. Again, being truthful to others, not lying, not telling stories, not puffing, or not, and this is a big one, dishonesty by omission. I know I use the word honesty in there, but it also has to do with truth, right? So when you're leaving important facts out, there is a lack of truth in what you're sharing with somebody. So it's important to stay in integrity, to stay truthful. Again, not just to others, but to yourself. In addition, compassion. Well, we all want to be treated with compassion. So don't you think others want compassion extended to them? And I'm not just talking about the two-legged being. Let's talk about the four-legged being, or the waterfowl, or the fish, or the wild animals out there. Compassion is so vital to your journey of self-love. We can talk about gratitude. I love talking about gratitude. I use gratitude all the time. I add gratitude. It's one of the first parts of my prayers every morning, is to let Spirit know what I am grateful for. And look, we all have those down times. We all have those times where you just want to go, rasa, what do I have to be grateful for? But you do. You might have to be grateful for recognizing that you're not feeling grateful about anything. Can I say that again? You may be grateful for recognizing that you're in a place where you don't feel like you're grateful for anything, anybody or anything. But the reality of it is, it's so vital. It changes your life. It brings joy in your life. When you acknowledge what you have, you get more. I know. It's such a simple concept, right? But you do. When you are grateful for the abundance in your life, and you might say, what do you mean abundance? I have builds up the yin yang. Here's the thing. When you send out those bills with gratitude, I am grateful that I have this much money to pay towards my bills. You are showing Spirit that you're abundant, and things will start to change. It's just such an interesting concept, isn't it? Kindness. Oh my God. It costs nothing to be kind. Even if you're in a bad state of mind, being kind to somebody might be the difference in what makes their day or what doesn't make their day. You can take somebody who might be on the verge of doing something permanent for a temporary situation and change them out of it just by smiling at them, just by looking at them in the eye, just by opening up a door for them or saying hello. There's then self-esteem. Well, when you get to this level, your self-esteem increases. Your acknowledgement of who you are increases. You start seeing the true essence of who you are. And maybe start seeing might not be the right phraseology, but you do acknowledge the loving, joyful light that you are and the light you bring others. Because when you bring gratitude, compassion, and kindness into your situations, it just brings up your self-esteem, self-confidence. And when your self-esteem builds, guess what? So does your confidence. And then we go into self-acceptance. That can be a little bit more difficult, but it's part of the journey. And when you start accepting who you are, as I say, warts, wrinkles, and all, it takes you to a whole nother level. Look, none of us is perfect. You know what is perfection? In the eyes of God, we are all perfect just the way we are. Whether we're tall or short, thin or not thin, whether we have great complexion or not such a great complexion, in the eyes of God, in the eyes of Spirit, we are all perfect. We are all beautiful beings, because it's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. It's the kindness, it's the gratitude, it's the compassion, it's the love. And the love starts to emanate more and more as you go up this scale. So let's talk about self-love. What is it? Well, it's a state of appreciation for oneself. It grows from the support that you give yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, psychologically. It's having a high regard for your own well-being and happiness, taking care of your own needs first, and not being a people pleaser and sacrificing what makes you happy, what makes you fulfilled, to make someone else fulfilled. You deserve that fulfillment as much as anyone else, even children. Now, that's a different topic, but let me touch on children for a while, for a minute or two. Children deserve everything, especially when they're young. When it's their developmental stage, they deserve your love, your compassion, your patience, your kindness. They also deserve to learn boundaries. Many of us aren't raised with boundaries. I know I wasn't. I have very delineated boundaries today, but up until I hit my, I'm not quite sure what decade I want to share with you, but I did not have delineated boundaries. It's a healthy thing to A, have for yourself, and B, teach your children so that they don't give their power away. They don't give things to others while sacrificing what pleases them, what makes them feel good and whole and healthy. It's very subjective, of course, what self-love might mean to me over you, but the universal knowing that you are taking care of you on all levels, that's what self-love really is about, because it's self, S-E-L-F, capitalized, italicized, in big, bold letters, self-love, because you need to love yourself first. You're unable to help others or truly love another when you don't love yourself. We may go through the steps and think we love another, but do we really? And I put that out as a question for you because I just don't know. I don't believe so. When you're sacrificing your health, your happiness, your rest and relaxation for another. Again, if a child has a need, and it's not just fulfilling an ego need of want, But if their health is challenged, their mental health, um, they need guidance, of course, you need to address that without question. But if they just want your attention because they've been lacking your attention, well, if you've got something that you have to take care of, please take care of you. But then please give your child what your child is asking for, what your child is needing. So let's talk about, what does self-love mean to you? Well, it can mean talking to and about yourself with love, prioritizing yourself, which is what I've been talking about. It's important to prioritize yourself, not with that selfish ego love, but with the self love of knowing that if you're hungry, you need to eat. If you're exhausted, you do need to rest. And you need to not take on everything. I always tell my clients when we're talking, when I'm doing coaching, and I always say, there's a word in the dictionary. It's 2 letters. It's no. And sometimes no is not being selfish. It's not being cruel. It's not being mean. It's being self-supported. Because if we just said yes to everything, there are people who will keep piling and piling and piling, especially if they give you short deadlines. And if you can't say, no, I can't take on anymore right now, but call me next week, makes a bit of a difference. This is self-preservation. Okay, here's another good one. Stop judging yourself. And just as importantly, stop allowing the judgments of others to guide your path. What others think of you is none of your business. I love that. I when I heard that, I was like, really? It's none of my business, because back in the day, I thought everything was my business. And there's a Yiddish word, it's called yenta. It's like being the gossip. You need to know everything. You have to be in the middle of everything. And that's how I used to be, because I was so worried about other people's judgments, because it would affect my judgments of myself. Yes, other people's judgments would affect how I judged me. And if somebody was judgmental or said I did something stupid or dumb or inappropriate, then I would shudder and feel shame about it, because that was somebody else's perception. But if I was doing something innocently, or with a vein of curiosity because I didn't understand, or I wanted to know, or I was seeing something and I wanted clarification, and someone judged me on that, I no longer take that in. It's none of my business. That's about them, not about me. I was actually texting with my nephew this morning, and he was telling me about some situations that make him uncomfortable. And what I texted to him was that the other people's behavior is not about his behavior, and he doesn't have to, soak it in. That's about them. It's not about him. If he's enjoying his evening, whatever our time is, and somebody does something to try to humiliate him or something, that's a reflection of who they are, not who he is. And it's easy to say, yes, I understand, but I want to make sure that you all understand that when people do things like that to make themselves feel better, or to make themselves feel like, they are better than someone else, they're not. They're actually showing you how wounded they are. They're not better than anyone else. So what Bridget was sharing with me, my husband uses that word all the time, but not about me. That's so funny. What word is that, Bridge? Okay. Trusting yourself. That's a tough one. It's a really hard one, especially when you were very much like me and kept making mistakes that brought you things that didn't serve you over and over and over again. Learning to trust yourself becomes really powerful. It really is a powerful thing. And here's the thing. When you learn to stop making those mistakes over and over and over again, or making the same choices, then maybe let's take the mistake out of there, because that could be a judgment. Let's take the word out. But when we keep making choices that don't serve us again and again and again, we need to change our MO. We have to change what we're doing or how we're justifying it to ourselves. It's truly a very powerful kind of action, so that you may be able to start saying, oh, okay, that didn't work for me this time. I'm going to do it this way. I'll give you an example. I used to bring in the same kind of romantic relationships over and over again, and they all ended up the same way. And at a certain point after my divorce, I said, you know what? I'm going to start changing my MO, my modus operandi, how I bring people into my life. And if I see those red flags, I'm not going to let my savior take over and say, oh, I can change this, I can make this better. No, I started changing things. So a little TMI, I used to be a serial monogamist. I would get in one relationship at a time until the relationship ended, licked my wounds, and would get into another one. Well, after my divorce, I was finished with my first mystery school, and I was working with my spiritual response therapy consultant, and we started clearing around my issues of serial monogamy. And I made a conscious decision that I would not be a serial monogamist. Nope. I would date. I would meet many people. I would get to know these people and find out if I really liked who they were. And this is another thing, might be a little TMI. I took sex off the table until I was going to be in a relationship with somebody who I liked and who liked me for who I was and who got me, which is always an interesting thing because not many people were able to get me back in the day, probably because I couldn't get myself. Well, that new way of having relationships really changed. Oh, yentas. But really changed things for me. I started to get to know people, and guess what? People who I would have possibly slept with before, I'm like, ew, no, I don't want to do that, because I had confused intimacy, physical intimacy, with intimacy. And so I chose to change that. And I will share with you, this worked for me so well because I have now been with my current husband for 14 years. He gets me. We're friends. We laugh. In my wildest imagination, I would dream about relationships like I have, but I didn't know if I was ever going to attract a relationship that I currently have. And I have, and I do, and I am worthy of it. And this is where, when your healing happens, you know that you are worthy of being treated well, treated with respect, treated and accepted for who you are, and loved for the person that you show up as. Because when you're not really true to yourself and you haven't done your work, you might feel, like I mentioned earlier, that you are further along than you are, but you'll keep bringing relationships to you where your frequency is. You hear me talk about this often. So if your frequency is low, you're going to bring people of that frequency, because somebody who's radiating or resonating higher, you're not able to raise up to that level, and they will not lower their frequency to yours. So when you say, why do I keep having the same relationships? I invite you to think about what I've just shared about frequency. And when you start taking the steps for self-love to heal what's under neutrality, life starts to really change. Okay, let's see what else is on the list I've written up. Being true to yourself, I've just talked about that. Being nice to yourself, yes. Setting healthy boundaries, yes. Yes, let's talk about boundaries, how important they are, and healthy boundaries. Well, in my opinion, I don't believe there's anything that's considered unhealthy boundaries, because boundaries are boundaries. And if you put a boundary around you, they're for your health, your highest and best good, your well-being. And what is a boundary? Well, it's a delineation of what you will and will not accept from another person, or even what you'll do for yourself. Point in fact, you've got a very full plate, and you do a lot of work. You do a lot of volunteering. Let's say you're a children's school, and let's say you have 3 children, all in different age ranges, different schools, and each one of you is pulling, the PTO is pulling in different directions, and your plate is full between their activities, your activities, whether it's work or just your outside curriculum for your mental and physical health. And they keep trying to have you do more and more and more. I go back to that word, no. It's not selfish, it's not mean, it's not cruel. And how you say it is, I can't do it right now. I'm sorry. I'm unable to accommodate you. I'm unable to do this. But if in a week or two, when I get some of these things off my plates, you still need help, I'd be more than happy to help you. Now that's a very healthy boundary. If your children are pulling you to take them somewhere, let's say to shopping, to go buy a toy, but you're not feeling well, you have to explain to them, I'm really sorry, I can't do this now. I don't feel well. It's not safe for me to take you shopping for a toy or for whatever the thing is. You have to take care of you, because if this is the example I used, was not feeling well, but if you're not feeling well and you push yourself, what is going to happen? It doesn't shore up your health. It doesn't help build the rest. You will wear yourself down, and it'll prolong whatever it is going on with you. Boundaries in conversation. When I was raising the children that I adopted, I had very delineated boundaries of how they can talk to me. And there are certain things that were totally off the table. And if you wanted to have a conversation with me, let's have a conversation. Yes, sometimes it became a loud conversation, but the children I raised knew that by saying certain things, it would find them in a place that they didn't want to be. Those were my boundaries. So there's these kind of boundaries that you can put around you, how you want to be treated. That's a boundary. When you show people how you want to be treated, and it's better than the way you've been showing them lately, they will either do one of two things. They'll either rise to the occasion to treat you better, or they will get out of your life. And if they go out of your life, consider it a gift to you. Because if they can't honor what it is you feel you need for you, well, then is this somebody who you really want in your life on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? I have another question. What happens when someone who is older than you, like a family member, disrespects you and crosses a boundary? So that's a great question, because it happens, and people think because they're older than you that they can project on you, criticize you, be disrespectful to you. Well, first thing I would say is I find that inappropriate, or I find that offensive, or I find that whatever word you want to use. And I'm really sorry, but if you want to have a conversation with me and you want to change the way you talk to me, I would be happy to have this conversation. But if you feel that it's okay for you to be disrespectful or you cross that line, I'm sorry, it's not a conversation. I will not have this conversation with you. And if you need to, like at a holiday dinner, because that's always when the best of the worst comes out, isn't it? Excuse yourself, go to a different room and cool down. And when you come back, if it hasn't changed, if there's more needling or barbing or disrespect, then thank the host and pick yourself up and leave. It definitely shows people what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate. In addition, if you're the host, and that makes it a little difficult to leave the party for an extended, and go home, then get your coat, get your shoes if you don't have your shoes on, and go take a walk around the block. Your point will be made. People will know that you were pushed in a place that is not positive, it's not supportive, and that you won't have that conversation. That's how you can put down those boundaries gently and honoring yourself and not giving that person back the disrespect they gave you. But it's definitely letting them know you will not partake in that conversation and you will not allow this person to talk to you in that way or to bring out or cross the lines anymore. They will know how to treat you by the way you've reacted to them. If you go down, if you get as low as them, and really start hitting below the belt verbally or emotionally, however it might be, all you're going to do is say, it's okay to do this because we're going to get into it again. We're going to get into a verbal fisticuff, or hopefully not, but it could lead to physical stuff. I mean, how many family parties or events end up with fights? Let's talk about forgiveness. Forgiveness is huge, 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 huge. Not only for forgiving others, forgiving yourself. And I want to get into the forgiveness a little bit more in a bit, but let's see. Listening to your body. So if your body's tired, let it rest. If it's hungry, feed it. If it needs to move, move it. If it doesn't, you don't want to move it anyway. Even if you just take a walk around the block, having your blood move because your body is moving will make you feel amazing. And when you move more, the endorphins are phenomenal. I know. I said that in a very funny way, but they are. I mean, those endorphins kick in. And that's why working out, people work out so much because it makes them feel great. They may not love it while they're doing it, but when you start winding down and the blood is flowing and your heart's pumping, it feels amazing. Let's talk about other ways. Then we're talking about self-love, but with self-care. Turn off your devices. Do a jigsaw puzzle. Do something creative. Do some brain exercises. It keeps, just like your body needs to exercise and move to keep your body fluid and keep your balance and keep your flexibility. The same is needed for your mind, for your brain. You need to work your brain out. And playing a video game is just not enough. Just sitting and watching TV is not enough. You need to stretch your brain by doing games, brain games, even things like a jigsaw puzzle or a Sudoku. I hope I'm saying that right. It's amazing for you. How you eat. Think about it. If your body is a temple and you keep feeding it fast food, grease, fat, things that will clog your arteries, is that taking good care of your body? Now, I'm not saying don't do it ever, but let's balance it out with clean food, healthier food. Not everything has to have gravies on it or it has to be deep fried. Eating good, healthy food is great for keeping your body healthy. Let's talk about how I want to talk about forgiveness now. Let's talk about that forgiveness. A lot of people say when you say, "Oh, you need to learn to forgive this situation or this person," and people say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Wait a second. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to let them off the hook? Why would I want to let them get away with that horrible thing they said or that horrible thing they did or they were so hurtful?" Forgiveness is the gift you give yourself. Because what happens? Somebody hurts you, says something, does something. They keep living their life, probably mindless, without guilt, without shame, without even realizing how deep the wound they caused. When you forgive them, you release yourself from the shackles that keep the weights on you. What are the weights? The weights are the incident, the words, the projection. And you forgive them. Again, for your benefit, not for theirs. Now, if they benefit from learning from it, that's a great thing. But if they don't learn to forgive or know that they've done it, you've still unburdened yourself and you can now move out of through your life happier, more joyful because you're not carrying the junk that comes with the anger and the bitterness and the resentment that lack of forgiveness will bring to you. And here's an even harder something: learning to forgive yourself. It is hard. We talk to ourselves worse than anybody else does. Because why? We take in people's projections, their judgments, their criticisms, their beliefs, how they want to impose themselves on us. And we just take it in and we just keep repeating it in our mind like, aren't we stupid? Aren't we this? Aren't we that? No, you're not. And you need to forgive yourself for doing it. So I want to give you a couple of forgiveness exercises. I love, first of all, wait, we have another question. If you put a lot of work in forgiving someone, but the feelings keep coming up and bothering you, what are a few things you can do to work through these emotions? Well, that's a great question. And so I'm sort of getting there. But I'm going to say, if you forgive somebody and yet you're not forgetting, it's still ruminating in your mind, you really haven't forgiven them. And you haven't forgiven your part of that situation. So I want you to think about that. If the feelings keep coming up of anger or hurt or disappointment or shame or whatever it is that they projected onto you, you have not truly forgiven them. So I was just about to share a couple of exercises, so let me go on with that. First of all, I love mirror work. And this is more about forgiving yourself, but you can do it to forgive others. When you look into a mirror and you look into your eyes, directly into your eyes in the mirror, and you share how I forgive myself for whatever it might be. I forgive so-and-so for what they might do. And the Ho'oponopono is perfect for doing this in the mirror. So Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian prayer that brings where you forgive yourself. Because if something happens through somebody else, you have to look at your part in it, right? So what do you say? Well, I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. God forgives me. And keep looking at yourself in the mirror when you're doing that. You can do it when you're driving your car or walking, taking your walk. You can do that as well. And you set the intention that this is to forgive myself and my relationship with whomever, or this is for me. I set the intention for me to use this for me to forgive myself for. And you can list or not list what those items are. Spirit knows. You don't necessarily have to get into it, but honoring what it is also incredibly powerful. So I'm going to repeat this again. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. God forgives me. Oh, and you can also add, and I forgive myself. So I know it keeps growing, but it's powerful because you are saying you're sorry. You're telling them you love them. Though it might not feel like it in the minute, but you do love them, or you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't try to get into this forgiveness piece. Please forgive me, because no matter what, even though we feel we're the victim, there's a part of us that had some agreement in this. Thank you. Well, you always want to be grateful and appreciative. God forgives me. Yes, God does forgive you. And you do not have to go to another individual for self-forgiveness. You can forgive yourself because in Genesis, I think it's page 5, it said, we were all made in the likeness of God. So my feeling is if God is in each and every one of us, then wouldn't it suffice to say that we don't need to go outside ourselves for forgiveness or redemption? We can go inside. Hi, Lisa. Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm so glad you've joined in. If you have any questions, please feel free, or comments. I'll be more than happy to share with the listening audience. Okay, so another forgiveness item. Why not write a forgiveness letter? I love this. And it's a process. So it can be a 2 or 3 part two, 3 or 4 part process. So the first part is you go into a meditation. You get grounded, and you just do some slow, deep breathing with the intention that you are going to write a letter to the person who did whatever it is they did, whether they said it or did it, whatever it is, that's where the intention is. When you come out of your trance, you have a piece of paper or a notebook and a pen ready. And when you open your eyes, you just pick up the pen and you don't think. You just begin to write. Don't edit, don't critique it, don't filter it. Just write whatever it is. And then when you're done, write until you are exhausted. Write until there is nothing more to write. And it could be 1 page, it could be 10 pages. Just keep doing it. And when you're done, put the pen down, take a break. And your break can be a couple of minutes, have something to eat, have a beverage, stretch your legs, depending on how long you've been writing for. And then you come back and you go through the same process where you go into your meditation, slow, deep breathing. And in this point, you're setting the intention that you're going to receive a response from the one you just wrote to. And when you open up your eyes, you take your pen, you take your paper, and again, you start writing. Don't think about it, don't filter it, don't critique it, don't judge it, just keep writing. When you're done, take another break. Stretch your legs, go have a snack, go get a beverage, go take a walk, whatever it might be. And then you can do one of 2 things. You can read the first letter and then read the response, or you can go into a trance. And when you come out, and the trance is the slow, deep breathing, the meditation, you can write what Spirit wants you to write about the situation. And again, just don't think about it, don't filter it, don't critique it, just write. And when you're done, you put down the pen again. If you did the third part, when you come back after your break, read the first letter, read the second letter, and then read the third letter. If you've only done the first and 2 letters, well, then there's no third letter to write, right? So you write that, and then see what came through. How does it affect you? Does it make you feel better? Did your forgiveness of this person allow this person to accept it? Or if this is a forgiveness letter to yourself, did you accept the forgiveness? Did it process? And if you did write the third letter, read the response from Spirit. When you're done, then you destroy it. You can burn it, which is my favorite thing, because when you're watching the paper burn, it's amazing what you see in the paper. You can shred it. You can soak it in water. And if you're going to do that, use a Bic pen so that the ink gets all mushy and it just goes down the drain. However you do it, rid yourself of it, but know that it's there. I need to take a charity shout out. I'm a little bit late for charity shout out. I want to send prayers to the people of Florida and those who are going to be affected by Hurricane Ian. And my charity is globalgiving.org. Check out globalgiving.org because they have given out millions and millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to help those who have been through atrocious natural disasters or disasters of any kind, war, famine, what it might be. If that doesn't resonate with you, I implore you to please help whatever organization resonates with you. It could be the Goodwill. It could be FEMA. Whatever it is, please help those who are now being challenged, who have lost their homes, their cars. They're being displaced because this hurricane was just a couple of miles an hour, less than a Cat 5 from my understanding. I could be wrong. It could have been a Cat 5. But please help those who are now struggling in their situations. And I say thank you for listening to my charity shout out. Okay. I want to talk now about a process that I didn't mention earlier, but it is powerful because we limit ourselves, we repress. We're the biggest repressors there are. There is no other being on this earth that represses like a human does. What does repression mean? It means you don't want to deal with it. So you just push it down. You hold your emotions down. You don't deal with your emotions. And you just pile on top of another. It looks like layers, just layers and layers and layers of different emotions that you don't want to deal with, that don't feel good. And my favorite is what I call release by exertion. And one of my favorite is to get a toy bat. And let me see if I have one. Here it is. Now, this is a little small, but it's a Nerf bat. And the reason I want to do that is because it's got a soft exterior. Metal and wood bats are not required. And the caveat to this practice is this is never to be used on a child or another human being or an animal of any kind, ever. This is to be used on a soft surface. You go to your mattress. You go to your sofa. You go to an overstuffed chair. If you're a healer and you have a massage table or you're a massage therapist, go use that. That's what I used to do in my old house when I was going through my divorce. Oh, I had a plastic bat, a child's bat, and I would do this. I don't have the need as much, but at the beginning, oh my God, I would go down there often to the point where I smacked the bat one time so hard that it split it into pieces that flew all over my room. It was amazing. But what will happen when you do this practice is you will start to feel the emotions rise. Here's the caveat. The caveat is to make sure you allow those emotions to come out. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to scream, scream. But if you're close to someone, have a pillow nearby so that you will, I'm going to take this out because I created this, which is the original screen pillow, will help muffle the noise. You don't need my screen pillow. You can use any pillow. But I just thought that this is a funny piece. And it's a talking piece. and you use it for, then you scream and you holler and you get it out of your system. Here's the thing, you don't have to do this for hours on end. Do it until you're done. And then do it again and do it until you're done. You would be amazed how light you feel when you're done doing this practice. Yes, it is amazing. So let's move into self-acceptance a little bit. What does that look like? Well, we all have things that we don't like. Just look in the mirror and you will be focused directly on that thing you don't like. It could be your hips, your boobs. It could be your hands. It could be your face, something on, your nose. That's always a big one. No pun intended. But people have issue with their nose. I happen to be a nose aficionado. I love noses. And I do. And whether they're prominent or they're just a cute little turned up thing, I love looking at noses. I know that's a little personal, but I do. But many people will look in the mirror and they see the thing that they don't like the most. And that's what you focus on. And you say, thank you for it. Thank you for my hips. Thank you for my thighs. Thank you for my nose. Whatever it might be, thank yourself for it and what it does for you. So let's go to the nose. If it's the nose that is your point of contention, thank your nose, because it's what helps you bring in oxygen. It helps the breathing process. You need your nose to smell. You need your nose to breathe. You need your nose for holding on your glasses, to keep your sunglasses or your regular glasses up so you're able to see. I mean, there's so many crazy things, right? Thank your body. If your body is hurting, if you've got sore legs, sore knees, sore ankles, sore feet, thank it. Thank it for what it does for you. Send it love, because without your feet, how do you move forward? Without your knees, how can you bend and be flexible? Without your hips, how do you move forward? I mean, there's just so much, right? In my book, My Fucking Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path, I have these exercises and more that will help you on your journey to self-love. So I invite you to check it out. It's on Amazon, and these are tried and true exercises that, again, I used for going through my process and still use today. I don't need to use it as often, but guess what? I still need to use it. I want to see if there's anything else I'm missing on things on your initial journey to self-love. Okay. Becoming more mindful. Taking actions based on need rather than want. Know what it is you need. Again, you might have a sweet tooth. Maybe you go for the fruit instead of the chocolate cake. If you want to go for the cake, do it in moderation. Moderation is always a good thing. Healthy habits, self-care, we've talked about those things. Please note, we are limited beings that become more limited by the projections of those who influence us. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, people we end up working for or with. They help to limit us. But here's the thing, we are limitless. And my goal in this conversation is to help you to embrace your unlimitedness, because you have the ability to be so unlimited, to not be held down or held back by anything or anyone, not even yourself. Try these practices. Email me. Let me know what you think. Let me know if your life has started shifting. And again, I invite you to use the month of October to start a 30-day habit of your journey to loving yourself. Okay, so I'm so grateful. Next week, my guest is Reverend Jen Post. So I hope you'll tune in. Hopefully our little issue with Restream will be resolved and we will be able to go live, multi-streaming, to multi-platforms, multiple platforms at one time to try to accommodate you. If you like the show, please like it, subscribe to it, review it, give me comments. I'd love to know what you think about it. And if there is somebody you know who you feel would be a great guest on the show or somebody you want to hear, please email me at marla@mghealer.com or at guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com and let me know who that person might be or what the topic is. Maybe there's a modality I've missed. I've learned about a few of them recently, such as medical astrology. I want to have a medical astrologist on here to talk about the difference in that. Astrocartology, that I knew about, but maybe you don't know about it. And that is, if you want to move somewhere, where is the best place to live? Where is the energy best for supporting you? So email me and let me know. Okay? I am so grateful for you. But before I give my gratitudes to you, I want to thank Bridget, my right arm, my left arm, especially this last period of Mercury being in retrograde, because it has been really challenging, especially technologically. If you're having technical problems, be patient. You might have to replace something, but be patient about it, because not only is Mercury in retrograde, but I believe there are 5 other planets affecting us right now. And I know that Neptune is, and I think is it Jupiter or Saturn? One or the other, or maybe both, in addition to Mercury. So they're powerful, powerful planets, all going backwards and affecting us in communication and electronics and travel, weather. This is a huge Hurricane Ian, huge example of Mercury in retrograde and the other planets playing with us. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, out of your life, for being a part of the show, because I know you can't get this time back, so I want to make it valuable to you. Know that I am grateful that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it, because not only are you my student, you are my teacher. And not only am I your teacher, I am your student. And so grateful for everything that you do and you bring to my life, to my show. Thank you. I want to say these words to you. If you haven't heard them yet, let me say them to you. And if you have heard them, just know that you have one more level and layer of this, and that is love. I love you. You are loved not just by me, not by your family and friends, though they do love you, but by the thousands of beings on the other side of the veil who want to work on your behalf, who want to conspire to bring to you what it is you need, want, and desire. Here's the ticket. Here's the golden ticket of it. You need to ask them. They don't have the free will to just intervene. So ask them. And I always do it out loud because the vibration is even stronger. Ask for what you need, what you want, what you desire, and allow them to start working on your behalf. Okay? All right. Well, until next week, as always, I send you again my love, and know how grateful I am for you being in my life. Have the most spectacular week. Stay safe, stay dry, stay warm, because there's a lot of weather going on this week, or at least this weekend. And until then, next week, I send you kisses and love. Take care.